on all items in a regular agenda. Public input on a regular agenda item will be taken at its appropriate discussion. Public input on an item not on the agenda or consent agenda may be identified and requested for consideration by the board at this time. The board may request an item to be placed on a future agenda or for a consent item to be moved to the regular agenda for public comment. I think that Carl has some items.
We have a staff presentation to make. The mic wasn't on, but now it is. We have a staff presentation to make, and I think there's some other folks from the public for public comment.
Good afternoon. Just wanted to officially introduce Catherine Hand to the board. She started on January 2nd. She's a recreation supervisor, graduate of Texas A&M. We won't hold that against her though, Carl. And been doing a great job so far. So just say hi.
Hi, it's really nice to meet y'all. Like you said, I am a graduate of Texas A&M. Thank you. And I study recreation, parks, and tourism sciences. I minored in business, and I'm very excited to be here and be a part of the San Angelo community. So looking forward to working with you guys.
Thank you very much, and welcome
to
the wonderful Parks and Recreation staff. Welcome. Next. We have a presentation.
Well, if you remember me, my name is Kenneth Landon, and I told you the last time that I was here I was going to give you all something, a little piece of Texas history from the guy who made it Texas history. This is the Texas state water lily, Nymphaea Texas Dawn, that has been adopted in 2011 as the state official water lily of Texas, just like the bluebonnet is and the pecan tree and everything else. So it's part of Texas history. It happened here. And so everybody gets something while I'm still in force until I have to go somewhere else. I want to give it to you personally, and so we're going to pass these out to everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Landon. Well, thank you very much. I just heard that part of the collection got in trouble with the freeze. So hopefully Ken can bring that back to its original state. I understand there is a representative of the Lake Homeowners Association that has some proposition to make to the board or some discussion, future discussion to start. Well, just tell us who you are. Okay,
my name's Rick Abbott, and I've lived at the lake for 32 years, and I'm up here somewhat representing the Lake Nasworthy Homeowners Association. I've been on that board a long time. And I have two items. First thing I want to do is talk about trash. The association has authorized us to buy 10,000 of these trash sacks right here. Now, this is one that came off the Frio River. The ones that we are going to have, of course, are going to say Lake Nasworthy. And what we're trying to do is adopt a situation where we call sack it, don't sink it. And we're going to give these things out free. We're going to give them at convenience stores, bait stores. We would like the city to work with us, giving them away at the two parks, both Spring Creek and Middle Concho. When you come in and you pay your park fee, we'll give you a free sack. We envision giving these things away on the July 4th show in Mary Lee Park, where people throw all their trash. At least we'll have a container or something to throw it in. But we thought we would let you know what we're trying to do, and we will be coming up here in the future asking that you do work with this. And one thing that we would like the city to do is to provide us with dumpsters at 5 or 6 boat ramps, full-time. And that gives people some place to throw their trash. We think if we can give them something to throw it in, maybe they'll have something to throw it at, and y'all won't have to pick it up. But that's basically our deal is sack it, don't sink it, and try to get the stuff out of the lake, improve the parks, improve the looks of the lake. The second thing we were talking about, the mayor has asked us to come up with a list of some type of priorities for Lake Nasworthy, be it riprap on the walls, be it fixing boat ramps, be it restrooms, whatever it is, we're going to go out and ask the citywide public for opinion on what improvement should be done to Lake Nasworthy, which includes parks, of course. There is the Lake Nasworthy Trust Fund. The money is available if we have citywide voter approval to spend that money. It does not cost the taxpayer anything. The money's there, and the money's growing every year. So what we're going to try to do is establish a priority list of what we feel are the things that need to happen at the lake to improve the jewel we've got out there. And this will improve, as we were talking earlier about the fishing pier. Everybody doesn't want to see it tore down. They want to see it fixed. I mean, it's part of a park. It doesn't need to be torn down. It needs to be fixed. But we've got $11 million in the Lake Nasworthy Trust Fund right now. It's going to top out at $22 million. There's no reason we shouldn't be trying to access 5 to 7 million of that dollars to do improvements to the lake. And what we're trying to do is do an overall so that the improvements we do doesn't just benefit the fishermen or benefit any particular group. And I think what's happened out there, I helped my dad in 1961 and 62 build the Lakeshore Amusement Park that was in Mary Lee Park now. There was an amusement park there, and I don't know how many people ever saw it, but it was there. And it really, Nasworthy is a real good asset, and it needs to really, I mean, you've got nice parks out there, but we really need to put money back into that thing and because we've got quite a deal there that we're just not taking care of. But that's basically what we're trying to do, and we just look for any help from anybody to give us ideas of what can we do to try to make this thing work, and then we're not going to cut, it's not going to cost the taxpayer. Same way with this, it doesn't cost them a bit. And we feel that's the kind of things we're looking for. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We'll see if we can help you, and we discuss that probably at the next meeting. Okay, consideration for approving the January 25th, 2018 meeting minutes. There's a change. The second, for the approval of December 18 minutes, we have to change Ms. Woodard to Ms. DiCello, because I think Ms. Woodard was not there. So if you consider that change.
Mr. Chairman?
Any other changes?
I'll make a motion we accept the minutes with those changes.
Yeah. We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is approved. Now we go to the regular agenda. It's a long agenda. The first topic of the agenda is to do with people and plant connection. You want to tell us where we are? I think we heard last time, the last board, we heard already about the topic. And we ask you, I think, to check with the risk management people at the city level, right?
Right.
Okay.
We presented this at the last meeting, and we did visit with the manager of the risk management office at the city. And the question, what we asked them is, would it be acceptable to have someone inside the recreation center with staff not present? And their recommendation is no, definitely not. And so we're back to where we were. The request that we've received is to waive the fee that is charged at times when staff is not present at the recreation center, and also at times when that haven't been approved in a schedule approved by the recreation manager. And so, again, this recommendation, this request, staff cannot recommend approving this request. And I don't know if you have any questions or
Any questions, member of the board? We want to hear from,
we do have Dan
legal-
Solari, the assistant city attorney here. I don't know if he needs to speak, but in case there's any legal questions, he's here.
if we
I
have
think
no
members of the-
question,
People
we
Plank
would
Club.
like to hear Mrs. Stanfield, if she's here again, or representative.
Well, it looks like we didn't make it happen or anything for us, but what I would like to recommend is, and I don't know if I need to do it in an amendment or what, is to specify exactly what our operating deals are gonna be and not have it vague or anything like it was before. So, do I need to do that in an amendment or what?
Your request is to modify some of the language to make it more clear?
Yes.
I assume that would take the form of amendment.
Right, any agreement could be amended, but any proposed amendment, if you would just be recommending to city council that they would approve the amendment. And of course, they would want to know about the funding, whether it's budgeted or not a budgeted item.
Is there a way for Mrs. Stanfield to go directly to the city council without, if we say no, if we have a motion basically following the recommendation of,
Well, I mean, I guess we're talking two things now. One would be make a recommendation on the request to waive the fee.
right,
And now her current request is to modify the language in the agreement. That would take some negotiation, and we might have to bring it back to the board and then go to council on that request.
I guess the answer, yes, you can propose a amendment to the existing contract agreement that we would have to take in consideration.
So I would like some action on the request at hand, and then maybe some guidance as to if you want to move forward with an amendment to modify the language.
I guess there would be two motions. The first one is for the board to support the decision that there could not be anybody there unless it is a paid person, and that we at this stage cannot accept the fiduciary duty, financial duty. And the second one would be to receive a request for amendment of the agreement. So do we have a motion to support the language that was proposed, which is basically to not accept at this stage modification in the agreement as proposed?
Motion to extend the contract as written?
Yes.
Clarify that, please.
I guess she's asking to, the first thing is to, I guess, renew the contract as written,
Well,
and then I know she wants to do an amendment.
that
so
the renewal of the contract, that's really
That's already done.
that's on the way the way it's written. She requested, and it's
Now the motion is to not modify the contract
Right.
at this stage.
right. Look at the caption again. Did we lose?
I missed something or what?
Take it off.
Well, at this stage, we can
in
refuse
terms,
the request to waive the fee.
right. That's what's at hand now.
Yes. Yes.
Because in terms of renewing it,
Yes.
that's
Oh, okay.
Okay. So we have a motion on,
The wording on the motion based on the caption would be whether or not to recommend that the contract be amended to waive the fees. And then the amendment could be brought forward later, and then it would be approved by council. But so right now, you're just you're just making a decision whether or not the contract, whether or not an amendment should be brought forward to waive the fees.
All right, and that's the one staff does not recommend amending.
Okay, so Ida, do you have the motion proposed by the legal department, which is to not amend at this time, but agree to receive a modification, potential modification to the agreement regarding the fee? Is that,
I guess it would
can
be
you say
something.
it again?
What you would be deciding is whether or not, you could do a motion either way. Either someone would move to recommend that there be an amendment to the contract, or recommend that there not be an amendment to the contract. If you recommend that there be an amendment, then one would be brought forward. If you recommend that there not be an amendment, then nothing at this point would be brought forward to you.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. It's simpler that way. So I guess we need a motion. Is that motion going to be, at this stage, we do not accept to modify the contract? Or that's one. And the other one would be that we accept modification and then can be brought forward.
My recommendation, my thing would be to not accept modification, to keep it the way that it is, not to.
Other comment? Okay, we have to, the other two. Well, okay, I will have a motion that we, at this stage, do not recommend amendment to the contract.
I don't think you're understanding. What the caption is reading is that we waive fees. So you're going to recommend whether or not to waive the fees. And then what Ms. Stanfield is asking is, if you're not going to waive the fees, she wants structured times when they can use the center.
But if there's no, if we do not accept to amend the contract, we keep it as is, there's no necessity to waive the fee. So by basically, I believe that by basically saying we do not, the board recommend not to change the contract, to modify in any ways that agreement, that's where we are.
Wouldn't
So-
waiving the fees require an amendment too?
Well, this isn't really that confusing. The way I understand the motion now is to not amend the agreement in any way at this point. Not to amend it such that there is no fee there's no fee associated with the use outside of approved hours, and not to amend it in terms of clarifying any of the language in the agreement. That's the way I understand it right now.
All right, well, let me fix that. Not to, right now, my motion is to not to amend it in a way in which removes the $25 fee.
Okay. I understand that.
And this was as well. Okay, I think we have a motion. Who seconds? Ines, you did second. Who's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Well,
Do you want to revisit the second question? Okay.
second question being accepting to get a change in language.
To modify the language.
I think we have to listen to any proposal that will be made by Mrs. Stanfield. That's our duty. And I would recommend that probably Carl and Mrs. Stanfield, you meet and see what can be arranged, if anything.
We need a motion on that, I guess. So my thing is, it's a contract. Wouldn't you always be able to come back and ask for anything? Shouldn't she be able to do that from a?
Well, if we do an amendment to the agreement, it would need to. I would like for y'all to see the language of the change.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that if she comes forward with an amendment, that she would bring it to us to see it.
If it's your consensus that we work on amending the language, we can work with the city attorney's office and with Mrs. Stanfield.
Was the motion clear enough to say that we were opposed to modify the $25?
As long as we don't go there, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yes, I understand that.
Any other proposition? But I think this one, by the motion we voted on, is definitely not an option anymore.
We can go back and look at some renegotiation to clarify some of the language and then bring it back. Okay. As long as it's not about the fee.
As long as no, but I thought the motion was about
Right.
the fee.
Right.
I think the reason for the fee is reasonable. I think it's
Okay, well, sorry, Mrs. Stanfield, and try to find another way to skin the cat.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, next. Discussion of requests submitted by the managers of Spring Creek Marina for reducing the speed limit on the park road at Spring Creek Park and amending the city ordinance to allow the use of golf carts for personal use at Spring Creek Park and recommending any related matters. I think there are two different issues here, and they may not be, they may not have the same considerations, let's say. So I propose that we go for the first one first, and eventually find a motion, and then we go to the second one, because they are not related, really.
Right.
Okay, so, Carl?
The request came from the current managers of the Spring Creek Marina, and the manager is here, Ray Broadway, and he may want to speak to this as well. The first request, imagine Spring Creek Park. It's a big park at the lake. That's where the Spring Creek Marina is, the Horseshoe Bend. It's a very popular park. It's one where we do charge a fee during the summer and the weekends. And with a lot of traffic out there, especially with the congestion, especially near the marina, there's some concern about the speeding. And 20 miles per hour may seem to be too fast for all the folks who are there. They've requested it to be changed from 20 miles per hour to 10 miles per hour. This would require an ordinance change. Staff does support a change in the speed limit. We would recommend it be changed to 15 miles per hour. This would take an ordinance change, as we mentioned, which would take 2 readings by City Council, and would also require us to change, of course, the signs. The cost of changing the signs is fairly nominal. We're just talking a few $100s.
Okay, thank you, Carl. I think we need to hear from the representative of the marina, number one, and then I guess number 2, we need to hear from the representative of the Park Patrol, and then the board members be able to ask questions to all of them.
My name is Ray Broadway. I'm the current manager of Spring Creek Marina. I've been out there almost a year now. And one of the concerns that gets brought to us a lot by the public, probably because of the very similar name, is near the marina particularly, the road separates campers and the lake and the river. So on busy weekends and holidays, you have a lot of little kids that are shorter than most pickups, crossing that road constantly, going to the water, going fishing, running back and forth. And kids being kids, they're not looking very well. And a lot of wildlife out there, which gets people's attention diverted. And so there's been a few close calls last season. So we had some guests of Spring Creek Park and our marina come in as well and ask us if we couldn't get that addressed somehow and get that speed limit lowered a little bit. So especially if you're towing, campers ain't getting smaller, they're getting bigger. 20 miles an hour, the average camper now is 40, 42 foot. We had two 48-footers in there last year. They're extremely heavy. 20 miles an hour, you slam on the brakes, it takes you a fair distance to stop, about the length of that camper. So when a kid's crossing the road, it's pretty dangerous. But slowing it down would significantly, and it's not that far to travel down that road. You wouldn't be experiencing any huge time difference or nothing. That's why we'd ask to get the speed limit lower, just to make it safer for everybody.
Okay, do you have any questions at this stage?
Is this the road, are you talking about from Knickerbocker in?
No, ma'am. So this road is currently called Camper Road.
Oh, okay.
Fisherman's used to go all the way, but now it's called Camper Road.
I should have added a map, but you can point it out here. It's really the park here, Spring Creek. So you see the marina. You see the marina here. The entrance is here. Here's the Horseshoe Bend. So it's the park drives in Spring Creek Park.
Yeah, as soon as you go through, basically, you gotta stop at the guard shack anyway there. Pay your fee to get in on the season weekends. From there on in, clear on the Horseshoe Bend.
Are there any residential properties back in there?
No. No, this is just beyond that road.
Right. It wouldn't affect any residential roads.
Is there any reason you picked the 10 miles an hour to reduce 20 to 10? Is there a particular reason?
Stopping distance, told a lot of stuff for a lot of years. Stopping distance with heavy campers becomes feet rather than yards. Going that slow, it's easy to stop something heavy.
Why not slower? Or I mean, why?
10 miles an hour versus 20 was half. I guess I was hoping to see less opposition with that and going slower. I personally taken my camper out there at 10 miles an hour and hit the brakes, and I could stop it on the dime. 20, it's about the length of my camper, and I got a 35-footer. By the time all the brakes lock up and engage, it takes about that long.
So you're thinking that 10 miles an hour is much safer as opposed to 20 or
Much safer.
a 15 or even a 5. That gives you plenty of time for all those brakes to engage.
You just need us, when you get close enough to a child, a 5, 6-year-old child in a full-size pickup, you can't see them. You just can't. So it even gives them a few seconds to get out of the way as well.
Any more questions?
How are these speed limits enforced?
Lake Patrol?
Radar, guessing, or how?
I'm not sure how they do that. A lot of people, they come in and I guess because of the name similarity would like me to patrol it. and I do. I go, if particularly if you're a guest in my park, I do go address you immediately. And I've even gone outside the park to somebody and said, hey, you need to slow down. You almost hit a kid or whatever.
Okay, if there's no more questions, we'll would like to hear from the Lake Patrol personnel at this point.
Sergeant Barry Wyke with the San Angelo Police Department Lake Division. The reduction in speed within Spring Creek Park, I partially agree with, and for the reasons that have been discussed, I do somewhat agree with that. But let me start off with the laws in Texas, as far as the transportation code go, allow for expedient and efficient travel. The roads are made for cars, and there's pedestrian rules. Unfortunately, in the park area, they act like it's a parking lot, and they go everywhere. And there are children running around, just like in a school zone. And I kind of want to point out the school zones are 20 miles per hour for that reason. because there are children who are somewhat uncontrolled. Spring Creek, the park as a whole, has a lot of roadway in it. Not just the paved road, but it also has dirt roads. Currently, our city ordinance has a speed limit set on those dirt roads at 15 miles per hour, which is probably too fast because people camp right next to those dirt roads. 10 miles per hour there might help, but it's still a roadway, and pedestrians, whether they're adults or children, do have some responsibilities on their part, as well as, of course, as the drivers. A lot of people go to that park and they're not there to look at the water or, you know, the landscape. They're there to get somewhere. There are no residents in Spring Creek Park except for the people who live in Spring Creek Marina. Right now, that park is, or the RV park has a lot of, I guess, what would you call them? Snowbirds. People that are living there during the wintertime. And they have a very hard time traveling 20 miles per hour from the gate to the marina. We stop them all the time. We write tickets all the time. If you make the speed limit throughout that park less than 20, we'll stop a lot more and we'll write a lot more, and they're not going to like it. The park road as a whole probably could support 25 miles per hour, but, and so this is my partial agreement, when you are going into the park, as you go in from Fisherman's Road and you pass the gatehouse, if you turn right and go towards Spring Creek Marina, the park is very open until you get real close to the water, and then it starts to get somewhat congested. And within there's not much area there that people are allowed to camp, and then you get to Spring Creek Marina. And at that point, if you've been out there in a while, the Thule Princess has a boat dock on the left, and the pipe rail that goes around Spring Creek Marina. From that point on to the end of the road to the turnaround, I agree with the reduction in speed. I mean, if you go there on a very busy weekend, it is congested. There's people using the boat ramps. There's people fishing, going back and forth to the lake. There's a playground over there. The store, the fuel pumps, all of this is going on. And then you get down to a very narrow road, and people are allowed to park on the side of that road, on one side of it. And it is congested. I agree with that. And there's a lot of pedestrians walking around at that time. If we reduce the speed limit to 10 or 15 miles per hour at that time, it makes sense. But a reasonable and prudent driver operating in that area, especially knowing that they're pulling a 40-foot trailer, should be going slower than the speed limit so they can stop. That's called reasonable and prudent speed. If we make the speed limit 10 miles per hour, tonight, when there is no one in there at 1 o'clock, it is still 10 miles per hour. And I mean, it's wide open. The speed limit in at Mary Lee Beach Park, or Mary Lee Beach parking lot, or well, for that matter, on Mary Lee Road, it's 10 miles per hour. No one does 10 miles per hour. It's very difficult to regulate that speed without making people very upset. It is 10 miles per hour. In the parking areas, I agree with 10. And there in front of the marina, I agree with 10 or 15. But if you get out into the park, I don't think we should lower the speed limit, if that makes any sense to you.
Well, thank you. Your proposal, though, is to basically not limit the whole road, but just a portion of it.
Yes, sir.
And that would be at all time or just at certain hours? Is that part of your suggestion?
No,
No, okay.
at all time.
At all time. Okay,
That's one of the reasons to restrict the lower speed limit to that area, to allow people, because, I mean, really, a lot of people come who live back by the dam on Shalimar and stuff during the winter. They come through, and on their way home, they drive through the park. If you make it 10 miles per hour, they're not gonna be doing 10 miles per hour.
Barry, are you thinking like this area right here
Yes.
between the marina and this?
Yes, basically where, and it really works out if you go out there and look, there's a road that goes right along the pipe rail, and that comes, it kind of goes through the
Right.
rail.
Yeah.
And just as you pass that, that would be a perfect place to have a speed limit sign, because if you do it prior to that, you know, there's people that could get around that sign. I mean, from that point on would be a lower speed limit, whatever is.
I think that's reasonable.
any more questions for the members here of the board? Yeah, please.
Yeah, you said that residents that are closer to the dam. So what I understood him to say is,
It's outside the city limits, it's outside the park. They can actually go around and turn down Spillway on Knickerbocker, past the airport and turn on Spillway, but a lot of them just come through the park.
He's saying this is one route, but some people cut through here to get back over in here.
oh, okay. And they typically do that when the gate is not
Correct.
occupied, when it.
Which is most of the
Yeah,
year.
like now. Okay, because that's what I didn't understand. I thought it was, the only access to it was for camping, but you say it can go.
There's a
Okay.
gate on this other side as well.
Okay.
Let me see if I've got this straight. You're recommending that we do 20 miles an hour everywhere except around the marina?
Yes, sir.
Basically.
Chairman, I make a motion to accept that recommendation.
Well, I think it would be safe to hear Ben if he has anything to say about that. Would that be a good compromise for the marina people?
Come on up, bud. It's recorded, so.
Get to the marina, there is that road right outside our guardrail. There's a section there, right before you get to that road, there's a sign that says, "No mobile vendors beyond this point." Those is where a lot of tent campers for the city camp right along that road. And that's where we get the problem, beside, in our park too, but that's where the little kids are crossing the road. From that same point, I think, is what I would like to see if we could. It moves it way up, like the officer was saying, it does move it way up. And from that point on, the only place to go is the marina. There's nowhere else to go. Because that road he's talking about turns off and goes to
It stops right here.
your facilities there, your building there, yeah.
So we're basically talking about this stretch.
Yeah, it's probably, 200-300 feet, this side of that rail is where that no mobile vendor beyond this sign is. And they camp right along the road right there, and that's where a lot of kids jump back and forth across the road.
Okay, thank you. Ken, you had a motion?
Yes, we accept the officer's recommendation of 20 miles an hour on all the roads in the park except where the manager just pointed out to us. I think it'll be close to the marina. Is that where that's?
Right, around the marina.
Okay, if you can interpret that motion, well, that's what I mean.
And I have a question. Is that to 10 or 15? I need that
It'd be
clarification.
20 and 10, I think.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposition? Nope. So basically, the motion is accepted to have partially around the marina, 10 miles per hour limit. Okay, now let's go to the next one, which is a lot more exciting, talking about golf carts.
For Parks and
Carl,
Recreation.
please, let us know.
So, Mr. Broadway also, from his experience, and he can talk with you as well, he's seen other parks where golf carts are permitted for the public to use. And he's asking for us to consider the possibility of allowing the public to use golf carts at Spring Creek Park. And again, this is,
Do you know which person would be considered? Is that rental or is that owners of carts that would be able to
I think anybody at the public,
come around?
as long as they've paid, if the entrance fee is required, as long as they pay the entrance fee and have all the requirements to register their golf cart. But we also have the assistant city attorney here because there are some legal matters regarding this, and we do need his advice as well.
Well, let's hear the city attorney first. I think that will shed some light on the question.
We've reviewed the ordinance, and that we do have an ordinance regulating, which provides for unlawful operation. But that ordinance applies where the speed limit is more than 30 miles an hour. So there's a restriction on personal use, but that's on public roads, which these would be, where the posted speed is 30 miles an hour or more. So other than operating a legally equipped golf cart, the state code provides that would permit, if you're within 2 miles of a golf course, to go to and from a golf course. That's where what the state code permits.
Personal use, for personal use.
For personal use, right. But you'd have to be going to or from a golf course and within 2 miles of that golf course.
Is that definitive? There's no other application?
Use it for business reasons.
Right. And they made a provision for like UPS and that type of thing, properly equipped and still on roadways that do not exceed 35 miles an hour. And then there are some provisions under the state code that permit for certain types of subdivisions. And that's usually for maintenance and going between buildings and that type of thing.
So in this case, we may have our hands tied by the state code.
So you're saying the state code doesn't permit private usage on public roads, no matter what the speed limit is, or unless it's 2 miles with
Right.
the.
There are the exceptions.
Right.
Okay, and that's the only exception for private use.
Right,
Personal use.
aside from in the subdivision provision and some very specific limited exceptions that aren't going to apply to what you're talking about.
So we should say that we cannot receive the request because the law doesn't allow us.
The way we understand it, we can't
Yeah.
go there.
Okay. Well,
She's saying there's a disc golf course.
Yeah.
It is over here, though.
Yeah.
well, okay. I think that we don't want to go there.
Yeah.
Sorry, but
It doesn't include disc golf, right?
okay. Let's go to.
Golf cart is defined, golf is not defined.
Yes.
Oh, please.
Sergeant Wyke again. I want to clarify something. So, first off, I'm not for the golf carts, but I don't want to walk away from this with us missing an opportunity, or somebody missing an opportunity. The operating a golf cart within 2 miles of a golf course, and a place like Bentwood, you can operate a golf cart in Bentwood. You know why?
Because it's
Within within 2 miles of a golf course, but they have to be going to play golf. So recently, they became a, what's it called, master plan community. So now they can go to the store. They can drive up to Stripes because they are a master plan community. That's another exception. UPS gets to deliver in a golf cart because they are doing it for business. But operation in municipalities, 551, 455 of the Texas Transportation Code, you are allowed to operate a golf cart if the municipality allows it, and they can allow it citywide or they can restrict it into a certain area. And this is one of those areas that they could, and again, it has to be a speed limit of not more than 35 miles per hour, and they have to have all the equipment on it: the headlights, headlamps, tail lamps, parking brake, mirror, and reflectors. Okay, they have to have all this equipment, and the city could feasibly allow that. So, I mean, again.
Is that something you would support?
No, sir.
Okay.
Not at all. I didn't want to walk away from here with.
Why is that?
Yeah, Sergeant White, I'm sorry, but it looks like you have a little discrepancy between you two. And I would prefer that you get in agreement on what can be done or not be done before anybody comes back in front of us for the use of carts.
Well, I'm sorry, I quoted you the wrong one. It is 551-404. I quoted you the one about the delivery vehicles. But, so.
Well, at this stage, I'm sorry, but you get to get in agreement. We understand that you have to golf court in the 2 miles radius. You have to be using it for a commercial purpose, and you have to have a maintenance purpose to use these vehicles. That's what we understand. So it doesn't apply.
Okay.
To the marina. It looks like.
That's the way we understand it at this point. I mean,
Right, we cannot adopt an ordinance that conflicts with a restriction that's under the state code. So that's all I can tell you right now without further looking at it. But and that's why we don't have any other provisions other than we have added an unlawful operation provision. We have not in our ordinance. We haven't added making something lawful that otherwise would be unlawful under the state code.
Well, thank you. I just propose that we table that issue, and it can come back if we are, I guess, allowed to receive it. At this stage, it looks like...
One more question before you get away. Excuse me. What's the difference between a four-wheeler and a golf cart?
A golf cart is a vehicle that is designed by the manufacturer to be used on a golf course, and an ATV is an all-terrain vehicle that's designed for off-road use.
So it's legal, it'll be legal out there. Or what's the difference now, I guess, in legalities?
You can't operate within the parks. You can't operate a golf cart, an ATV, nothing. No motorcycles, no off-road motorcycles. You can't operate any of that. It has to be a registered vehicle.
So do you need driver's license and insurance and all that stuff when you're operating that thing?
And golf carts, if they were allowed, you can be DWI'd out of a golf cart. So that's one of the many issues that we would be facing.
Okay, well, again, thank you very much. Enlightening conversation. Our next item on the agenda is recommending matters related to the program used, pre-scheduled use for practices of Kirby Park by the San Angelo Bandits Football Youth Sport Organization. Carl.
Quick orientation. This is at Kirby Community Park, which is on the North Concho River and Edmond Boulevard, just west of the intersection of North Bryant and 29th Street. The area under request is this open area, which is just south of the large pavilion. The Bandits, we have worked with them last year. They brought this request to us last year. They're only asking for pre-scheduled use for practices only, not games. And you see the schedule there, and we do recommend approval. They've been good to work with. They haven't caused any issues. They do pay. They pay for the use of the fields for each use. Again, you know, when we have a youth sports organization that doesn't have a home, they don't have a home. I like to try to work with them to provide space, park space for their use to the extent that we're able. And staff does recommend approval.
Do we have any bandits in the room?
Bandits.
Yeah, okay.
Yay!
My name is Mario Torres, and I'm the president of the San Angelo Bandits. It's a nonprofit elite football organization. It travels. We travel throughout West Texas and sometimes San Antonio, Pflugerville area. So we're not with any other of the, places that play football here or any other sports. We're our own entity. And anytime we go to the West Texas or San Antonio divisions, we represent San Angelo as a whole, as a city. And the place that we used, Kirby Park, that we did last year, it was great. It's a beautiful park. It's huge. We have 4 teams and a cheerleading squad, and they all range from ages 5 to 12. So last year, I think we ended up having about 100 kids, and that space right there was it was great. I mean, we had no issues. The parents loved it, the kids loved it, and it just it felt like home. It felt good there. And if we could request it again, that'd be great.
Any questions to Carl or to Mark? No? Okay, thank you very much. Do we have a motion to allow the approval?
Yes, Chairman, I'd like to motion that we allow this.
Okay, second.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? No, so the motion is approved. Next, it's around the lake again. Discussion of concerns related to the feeding of wildlife on public properties along roadways and near homes around Lake Nathworthy, and recommending any related matters. Carl?
This is really just starting a discussion. You may want to discuss it this meeting and consider something more formal at the next time. But we have started to get some calls, some concerns about, and we're here at the lake again. But if you can imagine the roads around the lake, several of them, like South Consul Drive, are pretty narrow. And on one side you have brush, trees, kind of a wild habitat. On the other side, you have homes. Well, I think part of the issue is this area has been cleared out now. If you've been out there, it's open land now, so the habitat has decreased in terms of where the deer live, and we have some folks who are going out to basically drop off a lot of load of corn for the deer to eat, and that does cause problems with the deer coming into the neighbors' yards, maybe damage some of their plants, and also the congestion with people stopping to take pictures and observe the wildlife on those narrow roads. It does cause issues with congestion. When I research, I can't find, and I've asked, I can't find any ordinances that really don't allow this. So, we can't just put up some signs and say you don't do it, because the police can't enforce that. So it would require an ordinance that prohibits this. I don't know that we have a formal recommendation at this point, but we do see that there is a concern, and think that we need to address it at some point. And we have some folks here from the lake, and we also have the police here that might want to talk to this issue.
Questions for Carl?
Have you approached the Texas Parks and Wildlife?
That's a good point. I forgot to mention that. We haven't yet, but we will in terms of control of the. I can't think of the word. a little bit of thinning, maybe moving or thinning of the deer. Some wildlife control. That's not the right term, but I can't think of it right now. But we are.
There's no more question for Carl. I guess we'll hear the residents who have concerns, and then maybe Sergeant White again to let us know if there's a real concern on safety. So who wants to go first?
My name is Debbie Albert Wilson. I've been living at the lake for over 20 years. I didn't come here just for this topic, but I'm very well aware that a lot of people feed wildlife, whether they be turkey or deer, out at the lake. And I would hate to see us prevent that. My idea as something that might help would be an educational information, putting that information out not only to the public in San Angelo, but to the Lake Homeowners Association, through the association to the homeowners, about being careful about where you feed the animals, because there's plenty of space to feed animals off the roadway. And I think that might be a great solution to that issue. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Definitely a positive solution. Do we want to hear from Sergeant White? Do you have any idea on the subject? Does that create a hazard or a safety concern?
Sergeant White again. I don't know of a hazard. I don't know that we have ever worked a crash with a vehicle and wildlife. I know there have been some because I see the results. But a few things, the people feed the animals. If you stop feeding the deer and the turkey at Lake Nasworthy, then I think it's only fair to stop feeding the ducks downtown.
That's a good point.
One of the issues about feeding deer in the most congested area that I know of is at Sleepy Hollow and Fisherman's Road. There are more deer right there and turkey. If you want to look at wildlife, that's the place to go. The residents that live along there and along South Concho, I know they go out and they put corn out and they feed their deer across the road, possibly to keep them out of their yard. I'm not sure, but I don't live there. But they feed them across the road, and the animals then, like at Sleepy Hollow and Fisherman's, they have to cross the road to get to the lake to drink. So feeding them is not going to stop them from coming into the roadway. And I can imagine there are plenty of complaints. I complain when people stop to take pictures, but I understand what they're doing. They're in a park, and that's part of living out there and part of traveling around that lake. I don't see any reason to stop feeding the wildlife. I really don't.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Great. Okay. It looks like we heard two very well-informed sources tell us that, after all, maybe it's a practice that should not be condemned for many reasons. The only thing that I guess we could entertain is to dedicate some areas to be more for feeding and some areas not. I don't know what the rest of the board thinks.
If we prohibit it on some areas, we need some sort of ordinance that.
I agree, but is that a good idea? I don't know. Yeah. After what we heard, it looks like.
Well, we could, like Debbie said, we could start with just some education to see how that helps.
I would be inclined to accept that as a good measure.
I was going to I know there's a flyer on the Texas Parks and Wildlife that talks about feeding wildlife and things like that and the prudent ways of doing so.
You could do an article, Carl. There you go.
I've been a hunter all my life, and I wish I could track these deer like they're doing out there to my place.
Okay, well, I think that the recommendation is to go the education route and not to take any measure that would direct us to a new ordinance.
We can always come back if it
Yeah,
continues.
exactly. You all agree? Okay. Good. Well, now we will give our city attorney the chance to shine, reminding us what we are supposed to do.
She's not here now, so.
No, but.
Oh, right. Dan?
Yeah, I wasn't planning on that, but
She has a formal presentation.
she does have, yeah, so I think it would, if you could postpone that. And we'll
Okay,
put it on
okay.
another agenda,
Okay.
because she does have a planned presentation.
Very good.
Okay.
Okay, the next one is consideration of making a recommendation regarding a report from the ad hoc committee formed to prioritize unfunded parks and recreation improvement projects.
Yes, as you recall, some of y'all, you recall, a couple of years ago, we worked up our first ever list of prioritization of unfunded projects. And when we did that, we went through a very detailed process in assigning points to different categories, and we quantified each different project but using a specific formula. And so the result of that was this list that showed all the projects in order of their prioritization with the overall committee score. Since it's been 2 years, and we added some projects to our list, we thought it prudent to revisit this list so we could add those new projects and reprioritize everything. So we met as a committee a few weeks ago to do that, and in your packet we have that list, the recommendation from the committee, which I think is good because it adds the new projects and it simplifies the prioritization into 3 categories: high, moderate, and lower priorities. So this is the committee's recommendation to the board to accept this new prioritized list. Just to go over these right quick, in our higher priorities, and these 2 projects showed up high in the survey results of that the public filled out in the CIP process this year. We had park playground refurbishment, splash pad, the community recreation center, Santa Fe Park, Sunken Garden Park, Sculpture Gardens, our botanical gardens, river improvements from Concho Avenue to Bell Street, all the different new trail projects we've been talking about, including Red Arroyo extensions. And just to mention that, there is an overall plan to add additional trails that connect to Red Arroyo. They just aren't funded at this point. Moderate priority, you see those listed here. And then lower priority. Which include a lot of the new parks that basically fill park service holes. And other projects that would be nice to do. We asked the board to take action on this to give us some input, some comment, and to recommend this list with or without amendments.
Yeah, I think should remind who was on the ad hoc committee, please. I don't want to get any credit, but
Francis, you were there. Lori was there. Brent was there. Roger Havlock. Anybody else?
Yourself. Mike.
Mike Hitchcock? I think that was it from the board, though.
I can testify for me, and I would like Laurie to say a word, so that I think we did a very serious job by considering really why there should be a priority or not. We went through the idea that what's fundable probably has a higher priority sometimes than the rest.
Mhm.
And we came up with that list. So we would like for, I guess, a motion after Laurie speaks to the effect of approving this list of priorities for unfunded improvement projects. Yes, anything to add?
No, I like the list. I wish that we had more funding to move in there, and as Carl said, the top two were top in the survey that just came back from the city, the Unidad and the splash pad. And I think we also talked that maybe Unidad could contain the splash pad and get them both done at the same time.
Yeah, there were 3 recommendations that we had. The splash pad, not the slash pad, it could be integrated into Unidad. We also thought that since we need 6 courts, we could try to make it a first phase of the future community recreation center at Santa Fe. And the last one, I think, was related to nature center, looking at a new facility and a site. And I think that Mike proposed a site that was pretty exciting. That's where the fire people training tower was. And it's kind of a canyon looking like area. Right. Anyway, we went into a lot of details. So do you have a motion to approve this list?
We approve the list as presented.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Nope. So this list is approved, Carl.
Thank you. I did want to point out, we did have a representative speak earlier from the homeowners association at the lake about lake improvements. We did show them here in our moderate priority, but we also broke it out in our list to include the pier that was mentioned, renovation of Mary Lee Park, South Concho Park boat ramp, Spring Creek Park improvements, and I'm sure there's more.
Yeah, the presentation we had earlier is, thank God, not asking any funds. So it's a gimme. We'll push hard as we can to help that to happen. I think it's in every citizen in the city to have a beautiful park without too much trash. So I think we're all in favor of that.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, that's a good segue for the consideration of future agenda items. Do you would consider to have that item on the agenda, that considering reinforcing the efforts of the homeowners association of the Lake Nathworthy? Maybe that could be part of our discussions. Any other? Oh, Madame Public, please.
Debbie Albert Wilson. I'd like to recommend adding a walking bike trail from Southland area out on Knickerbocker Road out to the bridge over Lake Nasworthy. I think that's been a great need in our community for many, many years. I know we talked about it many years ago with the advisory board. Safety, there's a lot of people that want to walk, run, or ride their bike out to Lake Nasworthy, and there's not a safe way to do it today. And if we're gonna be a community activity and exercise city, I think that's really something that should be on our priority list for the city of San Angelo, to provide safe transportation, whether you're walking, riding a bike, or running, to one of our main activity and recreational locations, which is Lake Nasworthy.
A great suggestion. Maybe we can come back to it. Okay.
Walmart, neighborhood grocery store out to the bridge. We recommended that you put it on the west side of Knickerbocker. And the reasoning is, when you cross the swamp area at Beatty Road, that would make a natural birding area that could be tied into that walk, where you could make a walk around that swamp area and tie that in with that walk from the city out to the lake. And it's an asset that's sitting there. Once again, it's a swamp area right now. I don't think it'd be a major project to clean it up, but it would be a very natural birding area. The other thing that I did notice with your deals, it was my understanding that as far as moving the nature center, that move was gonna happen to go over by Shalimar. Is that not correct?
By where?
Over on Shalimar, where we already have a nature area which was donated by Verizon. Was it Verizon who donated that property?
I'm not sure which property you're talking about, but.
Spillway Road, yes.
Okay. Well, the recent Gateway study talked about moving it somewhere in, I thought it was here or somewhere in
The only reason I was saying that is that has been, when they talked about the Lake Nasworthy master plan, the one that the city paid $360,000 for the study, that was specific, where the existing nature center is now was a natural area to put in a new mercado, restaurant, whatever type situation, and where the rock existing nature center is would be the perfect place for that. And I was under the impression that over off of Spillway Road, Shalimar, in that area, that was where they were thinking about doing that, and that you wouldn't have to tie up another piece of property, that property was going to be donated by, if I'm correct, I believe it was Verizon who donated that property originally. But you might want to look into that.
Can you point that out on this map, or is it on?
Well, I don't think it's on here. I think he's talking about far.
Nature trails are now just west of the Weatherford property.
Yeah, it's back this way.
Further out.
Yeah.
Maybe we can present these ideas, because there were some recreational and park improvements proposed in the Gateway study, which he's referencing, that we could remind everybody what was talked about there.
Yeah, we can have, we can have a larger view of Nasworthy characteristics and definitions of park, and then we can have a larger discussion for the nature center. I understand that right now we're losing interest, but the public has lost interest in where we are, and there's less and less people, less and less visitors. That's why we are looking at eventually something different. But we have not defined any area so far that I know of.
At this point, we're just considering future items, so
Right.
we don't want to get too far in discussion.
Right.
So maybe bring something back that talks about the recreational aspects of the Gateway study and the nature center.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, please. Any other suggestion for next meeting? I'm sure Carl will find plenty of stuff for us.
Something may come up,
So, Carl, anything else?
I have a quick question. Do we have two openings on the board, or
Yes.
do we have any nominees or anybody?
I believe we may have a few applications coming very soon.
Okay, I was just curious.
But if you do know anybody who might be interested, direct them to fill out an application.
Okay, if there's no more questions, comment, then they have a motion to adjourn. And, we adjourned. Thank you very much.